The knock came just after midnight. Not loud. Not desperate. Just 3 quiet taps against old wood, almost as if the person on the other side was already expecting to be turned away. Inside the small farmhouse, Ethan Cole froze with a mug of untouched coffee in his hands. Nobody came to his door after dark. Not anymore. He glanced through the rain-streaked window and saw only a blurred silhouette beneath the porch light, a young woman soaked to the bone, clutching a faded backpack against her chest. She looked over her shoulder every few seconds. Not impatient. Terrified. Then headlights appeared at the far end of the gravel road. The woman's face drained of what little color she had left. She whispered something Ethan couldn't hear before knocking again, harder this time. Please. The single word barely reached him through the storm. Ethan's hand rested on the doorknob, memories crashing into him faster than the rain outside. 3 years ago, opening a door for the wrong person had cost him everything. His wife. His trust. The life he'd built. He should have walked away. Instead, he unlocked the door. Neither of them knew that one simple decision would unravel secrets buried for decades, and change both their lives forever. The rain smelled like wet earth and pine as the woman stumbled inside. She couldn't have been older than 25. Her brown hair clung to her cheeks. A bruise darkened one side of her jaw. She tried to thank him, but her teeth were chattering too hard. Ethan silently handed her a towel. You can warm up, he said. Just for tonight. She nodded quickly. I won't cause trouble. I've heard that before. She lowered her eyes. I know how that sounds. For several long seconds neither of them spoke. Only the fireplace crackled. Only the storm answered. Finally Ethan pointed toward the kitchen. Sit. She obeyed without argument. While soup warmed on the stove, Ethan noticed tiny details. Her backpack looked expensive once. Now it was torn. Her boots were covered in mud but not worn enough to belong to someone living on the streets. Her hands shook whenever headlights flashed through the windows. Someone wasn't just looking for her. She expected them. He placed a bowl in front of her. She hesitated. When was the last time you ate? She looked embarrassed. I don't remember. That answer bothered him more than he expected. She ate slowly at first. Then hunger took over. Within minutes the bowl was empty. Ethan filled it again without asking. Only after the second bowl did she finally breathe like someone whose body remembered what safety felt like. My name's Ava. Ethan. She nodded. I know. He looked up sharply. You know me? I didn't come here by accident. Silence. Rain pounded harder against the roof. What does that mean? She reached into her backpack. For a brief second Ethan instinctively stepped back. Instead of a weapon. She pulled out an old photograph. He stared. It showed him. Standing beside his late wife, Claire. The picture had been taken nearly 15 years earlier. His heart stopped. Where did you get this? Ava swallowed. My mother kept it hidden. His voice became almost a whisper. Who is your mother? She looked straight into his eyes. Emily Dawson. The name hit him harder than any punch ever could. Emily. The woman who disappeared 26 years ago without saying goodbye. The woman everyone believed had abandoned her family. The woman Ethan hadn't thought about in years. Because thinking hurt too much. That's impossible. I wish it was. Ethan slowly lowered himself into the chair opposite her. His pulse hammered inside his ears. Emily had been Claire's older sister. She vanished before Ethan and Claire ever married. Police searched for months. Nothing. No body. No goodbye. Only silence. And now, a frightened stranger was claiming to be her daughter. Tell me everything. Ava's eyes filled with tears. I don't know where to start. The beginning. She took a shaky breath. My mother died 6 weeks ago. The room seemed colder. Before she passed away, she gave me that photograph. Her fingers tightened around its edges. She told me that if I was ever in danger, I had to find the man standing beside her sister. You. Ethan stared at the fire. Why me? She said you'd know what's right, even if you didn't know why. He laughed bitterly. She remembered the wrong man. No. Ava shook her head. I don't think she did. Before Ethan could answer, bright headlights swept across every window. Ava instantly dropped to the floor. They found me. Her breathing became rapid. No. No. Ethan walked toward the window. A black SUV rolled slowly past the farmhouse without stopping. Its windows were tinted. No license plate on the front. The vehicle disappeared into the darkness. Ava remained frozen. They're checking houses. Who? I don't know exactly. You don't know? I only know they killed my mother. Ethan turned. What? They made it look like cancer. The words hung in the room. Even the fire seemed quieter. My mother wasn't sick. Ethan frowned. That's a serious accusation. I know. Do you have proof? She reached into the backpack again. This time she removed a small metal flash drive wrapped in plastic. They've been trying to get this. What's on it? I've never opened it. Why not? Because my mother made me promise. What promise? If anything happened to her. Ava looked toward the front door. I had to give it to you. Ethan rubbed both hands across his face. Nothing about tonight made sense. A missing woman. A hidden daughter. A mysterious flash drive. Someone hunting her in the middle of a storm. He should have called the police. Every logical thought told him to. Yet something deep inside refused. Not because he trusted Ava. Because he trusted Claire. And Claire had trusted Emily more than anyone. What exactly did your mother tell you before she died? Ava closed her eyes. She said. Her voice cracked. Tell Ethan. I'm finally ready to come home. The sentence stole the air from the room. Emily had been dead for weeks. So what exactly was coming home? Morning arrived wrapped in fog. The storm had disappeared, leaving the fields glistening beneath pale sunlight. Ethan hadn't slept. Neither had Ava. She sat quietly on the porch steps holding a cup of coffee with both hands. The silence between them no longer felt awkward. Only uncertain. You can leave whenever you want, Ethan finally said. I won't stop you. I know. But you're hoping I won't. She smiled sadly. I don't even know where I'd go. Ethan looked across the empty pasture. My wife used to rescue injured animals. Ava waited. She always said frightened creatures don't need questions first. He glanced toward her. They need somewhere safe. For the first time since arriving. Ava smiled for real. It transformed her entire face. Young. Hopeful. Almost carefree. Until a pickup truck turned into the driveway. Dust rose behind it. Ava immediately stood. Fear returned like someone flipping a switch. It's them. Ethan narrowed his eyes. No. He recognized the truck. It belonged to Sheriff Daniel Brooks. An old friend. Or at least, someone who used to be. The sheriff climbed out, removed his hat, and smiled. Ethan. It's been a while. What brings you here? Daniel's eyes drifted toward Ava for barely a second. Too quick. Almost practiced. Funny thing. He chuckled. We're looking for a missing young woman. Ava's fingers quietly tightened around the coffee mug. Daniel continued. Name's Ava Dawson. Ethan's heartbeat slowed instead of racing. Because something felt wrong. The sheriff hadn't asked whether anyone was inside. He hadn't shown a photograph. He hadn't described her. He already knew exactly who he was looking for. And the way he'd glanced toward the porch. He wasn't searching. He was confirming. Ethan forced a calm smile. Never seen her. Daniel held his gaze longer than necessary. I'd appreciate it if you called me. I will. The sheriff tipped his hat again before walking back toward the truck. Just before climbing inside. He looked directly at Ava. Not with surprise. Not with relief. But with quiet recognition. As if he'd finally found something that had been missing for a very long time. Then he drove away without another word. Ethan didn't move until the truck disappeared beyond the hill. Only then did he whisper. You know him. Ava stared at the empty road. Her face had gone completely pale. Yes. She swallowed hard. He was at my mother's funeral. He knew your mother? No. A tear rolled down her cheek. He was the last person she warned me about. Ethan didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the empty road long after the sheriff's truck disappeared behind the trees. The wind carried the scent of fresh rain across the fields, but the peaceful morning no longer felt peaceful. It felt watched. He turned toward Ava. You should have told me. I wanted to. Then why didn't you? Because once you knew, she whispered, you couldn't pretend none of this was happening. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan made a decision. Inside. She didn't argue. The moment the front door closed, Ethan locked it and pulled every curtain shut. He placed the flash drive on the kitchen table. If this thing is important enough for people to kill over. He looked directly at Ava. It's time we find out why. Ava nodded. I was hoping you'd say that. The old laptop took nearly a minute to start. Every second felt longer than the last. Finally, the screen flickered to life. Ethan inserted the flash drive. One folder appeared. For Ethan only. His stomach tightened. He clicked. A single video filled the screen. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then. A woman's face appeared. Older. Tired. But unmistakable. Emily. Ava covered her mouth. It's her. Emily looked straight into the camera. If you're watching this, then I wasn't able to come back myself. Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried years of fear. Ethan, if Claire is beside you, tell her I'm sorry. Ethan lowered his head. Claire died 3 years ago. Emily obviously couldn't hear him. She continued. I didn't disappear because I wanted a new life. A faded tear slipped down her cheek. I disappeared because someone threatened to destroy everyone I loved. Ethan leaned closer. What are you talking about? Emily took a slow breath. 26 years ago, I worked as an accountant for a land development company. Photos flashed across the screen. Construction sites. Old contracts. Property maps. I discovered they were stealing thousands of acres from elderly farmers by forging signatures. More documents appeared. They bribed officials. They threatened judges. And when people refused to sell. Emily's voice broke. They disappeared. Ava stared silently. She had never heard any of this. I copied everything. Emily held up a thick envelope. I planned to expose them. But someone betrayed me. Her expression changed. Not anger. Heartbreak. It was someone wearing a badge. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. Emily whispered one name. Daniel Brooks. The room fell silent. The sheriff. Emily continued. He wasn't sheriff back then. He was a deputy. I trusted him. I was wrong. Another image appeared. A much younger Daniel standing beside businessmen Ethan had never seen. He helped them cover everything up. He told me that if I went to the police, Claire would be next. Ethan closed his eyes. Claire had never known. Not once. Emily's voice softened. So I disappeared. I let everyone believe I abandoned them. It was the only way I knew to keep them alive. Ava couldn't stop crying. My mother. Emily looked exhausted now. If Daniel learns Ava exists, he'll come for her. She paused. And if you're watching this, he probably already has. The screen went black. Then one final message appeared. The original documents are hidden where the sun touches the silver bell. Nothing else. The video ended. What does that mean? Ava whispered. Ethan stared at the sentence. Where the sun touches the silver bell. It sounded familiar. Very familiar. Then he remembered. Claire's garden. Every spring, sunlight struck the old silver dinner bell hanging beside the greenhouse at exactly sunset. Claire used to joke that it was the happiest place on the farm. Without saying a word, Ethan grabbed a shovel. Ava. Come with me. The greenhouse stood exactly as Claire had left it. Wildflowers had grown between broken stones. Dust covered the windows. Everything smelled of earth and memories. Sunlight slowly drifted lower across the sky. Then, a single golden beam struck the hanging silver bell. Ethan stopped. This is it. He knelt beneath the bell. 1 shovel. 2. 3. Metal scraped against something solid. A small steel box. His hands shook as he lifted it free. Inside were dozens of original property deeds. Signed statements. Bank records. Photographs. Enough evidence to expose decades of corruption. Ava looked stunned. My mother really did it. Before Ethan could answer, a shotgun clicked behind them. That's far enough. They turned. Sheriff Daniel Brooks stood at the greenhouse entrance. 2 armed men flanked him. His friendly smile was gone. I was hoping Emily hadn't told anyone. He sighed. But she always was stubborn. Ethan slowly stood. So everything she said was true. Daniel laughed quietly. The funny thing about the truth. He stepped forward. Is that most people don't believe it until it's too late. One of the armed men took the steel box. Daniel nodded with satisfaction. 26 years. That's how long I've waited to clean this up. Ava glared at him. You murdered my mother. Daniel didn't deny it. I simply finished what should have happened years ago. Ethan felt anger unlike anything he'd known. You threatened Claire. Daniel's expression barely changed. I threatened everyone who got in the way. A heavy silence settled over the greenhouse. Then Daniel lifted his phone. I've already called state investigators. Ava blinked. What? Daniel smiled. They're on their way. Ethan frowned. You just admitted everything. I did. Daniel slowly lowered the phone. Because I wasn't talking to you. He turned the screen around. The recording icon was glowing red. Every word had been captured. One of the armed men stared at him in confusion. "Boss, why would you?" Daniel interrupted. "Because I'm tired." Everyone froze. He looked years older than he had that morning. "I've spent half my life protecting monsters." He looked toward Ava. "Your mother came to see me 6 weeks ago. I told her I'd help. But I waited too long." His voice cracked for the first time. "They killed her before I could." Ava stared in disbelief. "No." Daniel nodded slowly. "Everything Emily said about the past was true. I betrayed her. I chose fear. And I've regretted it every single day." One of the businessmen raised his rifle. "You set us up." Daniel didn't even look at him. "Yes." The gunshot echoed through the greenhouse. Daniel stumbled backward. Ethan lunged forward. Another shot rang out. Glass exploded. The armed men scattered as police sirens screamed across the valley. State investigators. Unmarked vehicles. Officers surrounded the property from every direction. Within seconds, the gunmen were on the ground. Handcuffed. The businessmen who had hidden behind power for decades finally had nowhere left to run. An ambulance arrived moments later. Daniel lay on a stretcher, pale but alive. As paramedics worked around him, he reached weakly toward Ava. She hesitated before stepping closer. "I don't deserve forgiveness." "No," she answered honestly. "You don't." He nodded. "I know." A long silence followed. Then he whispered. "But your mother deserved justice." Ava looked toward the police loading boxes of evidence into their vehicles. "She finally has it." Daniel closed his eyes. For the first time in decades. His face looked peaceful. Months passed. The investigation dominated national headlines. Hundreds of stolen properties were returned to the original families. Corrupt officials resigned. Several powerful businessmen received life sentences. Emily Dawson's name was finally cleared. She was no longer remembered as the woman who abandoned her family. She was remembered as the woman who sacrificed everything to protect them. Autumn painted the countryside in gold. The farmhouse no longer felt lonely. Fresh flowers decorated the porch. Laughter echoed through rooms that had been silent for years. Ava had decided to stay. Not because she had nowhere else to go. Because, for the first time in her life, she had finally found home. One quiet evening, Ethan stood beside Claire's favorite garden. Ava walked over carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "You still talk to her sometimes?" He smiled softly. "Every day." "And what do you think she'd say about all this?" Ethan looked toward the silver bell swaying gently in the breeze. "I think she'd laugh." Ava smiled. "Why?" "Because she always believed the best things in life arrived by accident." He looked toward the old front door. The same door that had almost remained closed forever. "It wasn't an accident," Ava said. "What wasn't?" She smiled through grateful eyes. "Knocking on the wrong door." Ethan looked at the home that had once been filled only with grief. Now it held hope again. Family again. Life again. Sometimes the greatest miracle doesn't arrive because we were searching for it. Sometimes it arrives because, despite every reason to stay afraid, someone chooses to open the door.